Hi everyone, I'm Colin, and this is my Flosstube channel, Startpocalypse. You're watching my 5th video. I think it's 5. Yeah, we're gonna say it's 5 and I'll edit it out if it's wrong. Today my video is entitled Startpocalypse. I have been on a real kind of Startapalooza. I don't have a ton of whips. I'm not somebody who wants to have like 40, 50, 60 whips. And so I think I have maybe 10, maybe 11, of which 3 of them I started in the last 3 weeks. I film every 3 weeks. Thank you all so much for watching all my videos. I mean, not all my, I'm just whatever. For those of you who are like along for this ride, you know, we're kind of just like rolling through the end times. We got Headphones On by Addison Rae, convertible, just like driving through the wasteland. Yeah, thanks you guys. Yeah, I don't know. I just like am so like endlessly grateful at the support that I've gotten, and also just the way that like I think a lot of you being really excited by my stitching and sort of I think some of you have felt a little bit pushed by my stitching and sort of you're pushing yourselves further, and so I think then in return I'm pushing myself further and just kind of like stitching to the extreme. And sometimes that means kind of stupid, silly, cute stuff, and sometimes that means you're trying to really think about your work intellectually and position it within the world. And because the people have been so wonderful and supportive about my stitching, I now am doing it even more. So thank you all so much. The comments on my videos are usually kind of banging. I would recommend reading the comments, responding to people. Certainly people have been intellectually curious and excited about their stitching in my comments. And so I think like keeping that kind of thing going is really cool. I'm not going to be talking much about the intellectual stuff because I stitch so much, and also like it's Easter Day, and so I'm gonna I don't know. Yeah, it's Easter, so I'm gonna go to my parents in a little bit. So I don't know. I haven't planned out anything like that. So today I have 1 finish to show you, 3 starts, and then 3 other whips which I worked on. So you're gonna see 7 projects, which is quite a lot for me in a 3-week period. Usually I work on about 4 things in a 3-week period. And so the fact that I did 7 feels very crazy to me. Yeah, we'll just kind of get into it. I'm just gonna kind of get into it. The first thing I'm gonna show you is a finish that I had maybe last week. I finished Peroy by this is the Stacy Nash animal crackers. This is the little slug. I'm stitching these animal crackers with my own Overa Soie silk 103 conversion on 46 count. These ones, I mean there are 2 on here, so that's Miss Hazel. Also with my silk conversion, and then Peroy on this side. Yeah, and so I'm stitching these on just a selection of 103s that I have, and Peroy has finally beat the shoe allegations. I started from like here and kind of worked over and then up, and he's looked like a shoe for like months, but now he's a slug. So, and he's just so, honestly, these animal crackers are like so cute. And that's my finish. I won't show you the colors that I've shown the selection of 103s. I kind of put them away back in my organization system, and so I won't just show you what the colors are because they're there. I love stitching with the 103s. I love stitching with silk. I think they just look so special. And yeah, I'm just really happy that I finished this. I have plans of turning these and others that I'm working on into the animal crackers into little pillows. Some of them I'm going to be stitching on flax, which are here, and yeah. And then also some of them I'm going to be stitching on this, which is also 46 count, but this is just raw Bristol linen. And so I'm trying to keep like a little bit of, you know, I almost said diversity of color. It's gray. It's grayish. But yeah. After I finish, and anyway, I'm gonna be turning these into pillows. Hopefully, if I can do it. I mean, I can definitely do it. I don't know. Stitching, the thing about stitching is that it's actually like quite easy. I don't know. I find that there should be people on Flosstube, because quite frankly I don't have anyone who stitches regularly in my life. And so that means that like all the community that I have with people who stitch is like people on the internet, right? And I find that there are some people who are like very invested into presenting stitching as if it's like incredibly difficult. And like, you know, all specialty stitches, French knots. And I mean, I think that it can be kind of confusing when you're just getting started with like certain specialty stitches, or you're just kind of learning how to do them, or like, oh, you have the wrong needle, so like your French knots look bad. But I do find that like cross stitch is actually quite easy. And I don't know why there are people who are like so sort of invested in pushing this idea that like it can be really hard. Certainly like if you have bad eyesight, stitching on like 46 count or even up to 56 count could be quite difficult. But beyond that, it is just kind of like making X's. Anyway, I am going to be making these into pillows, and so I have been kind of like loosely looking for backing fabric, and I'm going to show you two that I got, and I might go back. So I went to Firecracker Fabrics, which is, I live in Pittsburgh, and so Firecracker Fabrics is here in Pittsburgh. It's actually in Morningside, and so pretty close to my apartment, maybe like less than a mile. But I haven't been, so I hadn't been to Firecracker before, and so I went, and you know, there were people. It was pretty busy. There were maybe like 4 other customers there and the person working, and I kind of browsed for a while, and then I like went up to the woman working, and I was like, let me tell you my vision. Like, I have these cross-stitch pieces that I have made that I am going to be turning into little pillows, and I would really like to find a nice backing fabric. First of all, she was obsessed with these. The woman working there was like taking photos of them, was like, oh my god, which was like, I think it was really validating. I think sometimes I don't know, I just think that the things everyone stitches is so beautiful. And also, I'm like psycho, so I just think that like everyone is doing all the same stuff that I'm doing. And so I just kind of, I guess in my head, I'm like, well, like I'm a nobody. I'm like a nobody nothing. And so that means that anything I do, like everyone else must be doing, because I'm just like doing, you know what I mean? Like who the fuck am I? And so it was like kind of a nice reminder that even though I find the actual stitching really easy, the work itself that I'm doing is good quality. And so she was kind of showing me around, and I was saying like, I don't want it to be too cute, right? I like the animal crackers. I think they are very cute, but I do think that sometimes, like, I guess when I'm thinking about like Maggie May, which is the like rabbit in the cardigan, or even like Miss Hazel, they sort of default to almost twee, like a kind of overly quirky, like baby country cute, which I think I'm looking for something a little bit grosser, a little bit more like dirty, or maybe even like cute aggression adjacent. And so I was saying like, I don't want like pinks, and I don't really want like light, like bright and whatever. I don't want to, I can't do a big pattern because they are quite small, and so like a big pattern would look kind of bad on the back, and I would really like to, I had all these sort of criteria. And a big part of it is that I want it to look textured. Is that for me, I actually really like, I guess you can kind of see from my shirt and stuff, I like the materials to have like a little bit of texture, where you can actually feel the like the actual weaving in the way that I like a linen with more slub. I like fabric with more texture. So I'm going to show you the two that I got. I might go back and get a third, which I know I said I didn't want to do cutesy, but they had this one that was like a very tiny floral print that was kind of like mud brown and gray, which yeah. And so I got this one, which I am going to be putting on the back of some of them. I think this is like a medium weight. It's not super light, but it's not like a heavyweight kind of thing either. And I just think that it's like a little bit slubby. It's definitely just like a plain weave, but it has like nice slub to it. It has a nice feel to it. And you can actually kind of see the weaving, like the weft and the warp in it. And so I got this one, and I got it because it matches Peroy really well, but I'm not putting it on the back of Peroy because that to me is also too like matchy. I don't want things to feel like there's to me there's something like extra cute about like clashes, right? Where like you're wearing a couple patterns or like the colors don't quite match. And like this is like too matchy for me. And so I'm not going to be putting this on the back of Peroy. But I might be putting it on the back of Hazel because I find her like quite busy. And while it certainly matches, it's not the same. But I have another idea for this. And so I think I'm going to have 3 fabrics and 2 colors of linen that I kind of alternate between stitching on for my animal crackers. And so then there's just kind of this mishmash of materials. And yeah, and so I got this, and I think I'm going to be putting this on the back of this. And then this one was like very special to me. I love this fabric. I think that this is like the coolest, like almost grossest fabric I have ever seen. And so if you look at it from like back here, right, it does just kind of look like gray, brown, maybe purple. It kind of looks like the color of my shirt, which is like a brownish purple and blue, which is kind of simple and kind of cool. But if you look at it up close, here, let's see how close I can get. It actually is like neon, it's not showing a ton here, but it's like a neon orange and this like highlighter blue colors of warp, which you can kind of see at the edge. There. And I think it's not showing on camera quite the way that I it is in person, but it up close, it has this like crazy kind of grody, kind of aggressive color kind of clashing. Then when you're far away, it just kind of fades into, brown and blue. And I love that. And it also like doesn't really match Peroy at all. And I also love that. And so I am going to be putting him on, I'm definitely going to be putting him on this. On the back. And I just think it'll be so cute. And I'm going to be practicing making a pillow first before I start it for real. Also, while I was there was another woman. I wish I had gotten her name. There was another woman there who, like, when the person working was like, oh, like, these are so cute. She was like, can I see? And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And she was like also very obsessed with them, also like took photos of them. And then was like, oh, are these, she was like, oh, are these Stacy? And I was like, oh, and then we talked a little bit, and she wasn't like a stitcher in the way that probably anyone watching this or me is. But she certainly like did cross stitch sometimes. And she was like, I bought all the animal crackers, but like I've never stitched them because I don't know. And so it was really cool. And also she had never, I don't know, I guess I'm just so online. I'm just so like up in the Flosstube shit, up in the, you know, that for me, stitching on Ada is kind of out, kind of passe. And like the really nice things, like if I want to make something that I think is like really nice and I want in my house, like I'm stitching it on linen. And to me that is like very regular, right? That it is like real regular to be stitching on linen, to be using silks. But she like didn't know anything about people stitching on linen. And so like that was kind of fun to be like, look, like I stitched on Ada some and I liked it and it was fun, but like when I got into the even weaves and when I particularly got into linens, like it changed for me. And also like something that makes these so special is that these silks have like a slight, have like that sheen to them that cotton doesn't have. And I think that also makes them seem more special. I don't want to say than they actually are, but like then if I had just stitched them with like a cotton on an Ada. And so then we kind of talked about it and I was like, look, like if you want to like stitch and like fall in love with it in the way that like I did, or find things that like you could love it about, I like can't recommend stitching on linen enough. And I want to say that kind of to anyone who's watching who like only stitches on Ada. Stitching on linen completely changed my stitching and completely changed like the way that I feel about how my stitching looks. Is I just feel like my stitches look so much better on linen. And I think part of it is the unevenness of the fabric a little bit. It's a handmade object, right? I'm making a handmade object, and obviously I didn't hand weave the fabric. But because of the slub and because of the like difference in texture and width of a linen, I think it actually gives you more wiggle room with your stitches, because there's no way that a handmade thing is going to be like a perfect X every time. And so because there's like slight unevenness with the fabric, I actually find that my stitches, the slight unevenness is kind of like, you can't tell. You know, like sometimes I have had a little bit to drink and I stitch and my tension is a little bit different, or I'm mad and so, you know, I'm stressed about something and so my tension is real tight. And I think on Ada you can tell that, but on linen you can't. And so I honestly, anybody who's watching my Flosstube, I mean, I think anybody who's watching any Flosstube is stitching on linen, but like I do not have many subscribers. I do not have that many viewers. And like, I'm kind of a deep cut. And so I do feel like anyone who is, whatever, I'm moving on. Okay. The problem with finishing, let me show you Peroy again. I just want to make sure you guys see. The problem with finishing Peroy is that I realized that everything else I had was huge. Everything else I'm working on is like a big piece, and some of them are like gigantic pieces. And I like having kind of a mix of small and large pieces because I like finishing stuff some. I feel like I'm like in an infomercial because I like whatever. And so now we're getting to my starts because it's Startpocalypse. And so I wanted to start a couple small things just to kind of like make sure that I have things that I can finish like at a regular pace. I by the end of the year, my goal is always to finish on average one thing a month. And you can't do that if you're only stitching gigantic pieces. And so I do have some small stuff, and so I'm going to show you some of my small starts. The first thing I started after I finished Peroy was another animal crackers, which this one is actually not super small. This one is probably going to be the largest of the animal crackers I stitch. And it is, like, it's almost 200 stitches tall, which is not big, but certainly is on the larger side of a small. And I am stitching this, I'll just show you. I mean, I'm stitching in a 46 count flax because I'm going through this piece of 46 count flax that I had, which I will be stitching my animal crackers on. And here I did his foot and a bit of sweater. I wanted to get the colors for the sweater in so that way I could make sure I was happy with them. So that is my stitching. Once again, I'm doing this 46 count with Soie silks, 103s, blah, blah, blah. I am stitching this sweater in these four colors. So the called for color sweater is only 2 colors. And I wanted something a little bit more dynamic, particularly because this one is like one of the more block heavy ones, and I don't know. And also I didn't want to stitch the carrot. And so I wanted something a little bit carrot adjacent in terms of the colors. And so these are the 4 colors that I should use 2 hands. I can use 2 hands. Look, Mom, 2 hands. And so these are the colors that I'm stitching on, that I'm stitching it with. And this orange, like, it looks bright on screen. It looks brighter in person. And I'm doing a stripe. And so you can see here that I am making his sweater a 4 stripe. I also want to say this. I have grown to absolutely love the color of his body. I think this is going to become one of my like staple 103 colors that I'm kind of reaching for all the time. In the same way, actually I don't have it in here. So this is 34. This is going to be my staple color, and then it's just gray. And the thing about it is, like, in the way it reflects light is that it's like brownish a little bit. It's gray. It's like gray, but like in some lights it's like very brown, and in some it's like a little bit green. And I really like that that it doesn't have that like flatness of color. I can't get my camera to focus. There. It's because I need to hide my face. And I am loving this. And so I'm going to be using this on a bunch of my animal crackers, which is as it should be. And so this is my progress. This is my progress so far on Harrison. He's also very cute. I think in some ways he's one of the lesser cute ones, and I like him more. I think some of the animal crackers do veer into, like, I don't know, like cute in a bad way. I don't know what that means. Cute in a bad way. I think sometimes they're too on the nose. Like they're too, yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say. But that was my first start. So that was the start of Startpocalypse. And then, y'all know I love a sampler. I'll just put a picture of the pattern in here because I only have a black and white printout. Then I started on EMCM ANNO 1787 by Modern Folk Embroidery. I wanted to stitch on a sampler, but I also wanted to stitch on something kind of small. And I wanted to stitch with silks because I like doing my smalls with silk because then you get the beauty of the silks without the money of the silk. And so then your big pieces can be like cotton cheap. Although will it be cheap with the tariffs? I don't know. I don't know. What does it even mean to be cheap? You can barely see this. Okay. And so this is EMCM ANNO 1787. I am stitching it on 36 count terracotta Zweigart fabric, 1/2. It's like very light stitching, and the colors I want it to be kind of like, I wouldn't say they're muted, but I would say they kind of like blend together. And that is the work that I have done on it. I am also doing this in my own 103 conversion. And I did it on this like terracotta fabric, which I love. I'm gonna show you the colors I'm using. Oh, I'm actually not using a 103s. What a mess. Oh, it went under my couch. Hi. Okay, so these are the colors that I am stitching it in. 6 of them are Verswa Silk 103s. This one with the blue is a Gutermann silk, which is a German, it's not floss, it's like embroidery thread brand, primarily known for their like polyester sewing thread. But I will say this silk is also incredibly beautiful. And that one's gonna go onto the couch too. Okay, I'm not showing you anymore. I'm not showing you the colors anymore. The light pink is missing, but these are the colors that I am stitching it with. What a disaster. But I particularly wanted that green and that brown because I think that I need to stop being like, oh, why do you think I wanted green and brown when I've dressed like this? And that's that. And so that is EMCM ANNO 1787 from Modern Folk Embroidery. This is a reproduction sampler and it's really tiny. I'll probably finish it soon. And then in my last Flosstube, I showed you guys that I had finished Flamingo Bells by Hands On Design. And I was doing all 3 in the series, and so I started the 3rd one, which is Flamingo All the Way, also from Hands On Design, because that's how series works. I am stitching this on 28 count? 28 count Charles Craft linen, which is like, I don't know, I got it at Michael's. And so this was probably the one that I got the most progress on because it's the easiest stitching. I'm stitching on a 28 count Charles Craft linen, 2/2 with like a DMC conversion that I just kind of, I don't know. Sometimes my conversions I'm like big brain thinking about. This one I was just like at Michael's. But here's what it is. So I made a lot of progress. I might be like half done with it already. And so, like I said, I've stitched Flamingo Bells, which is also in this series, and also is very cute. And I've also stitched Flamingo on this fabric, also with the same conversion. I am enjoying this. I feel like every time I pull this out, I have some new complaint that isn't real about it, and then I'm always like, no, I'm lying to you. And so I'm not going to do that today. There aren't any complaints that I have about it. Cute flamingo, beautiful flamingos, Merry Christmas, you know, the whole shebang. Yeah, and I don't know, that's flamingo all the way. I feel like for these starts, like these small starts, I'm not doing much thinking about them. I'm just kind of starting them. I don't really have much justification for them other than they're cute. Which for my bigger pieces, I usually have like a much more well thought out process of why I'm stitching it and why I chose the colors I did and where I'm positioning myself in the world and blah, blah, blah. And for those, I'm just kind of like, oh, but they're just cute. This is one of my, I guess it's not big like fabric wise, but it is big stitching wise because it will just be stacks of stitching. Okay, by the time I had started, when I was filming my first Flosstube, I had finished the last piece that I showed maybe like a day or two before, and so the day I was filming it, I was actually working on this, but I didn't show it to you guys. I don't know how to talk about this. Okay, this is a piece that I am working on, which I am calling maximum motif density, where I am pulling a variety of motifs from different samplers from the mid 1800s that I really like. And I'm kind of smashing them all together. They're going to be like on top of each other. They're going to be sort of, it's just kind of, the goal is to be like a mess. And ultimately it's because I am overwhelmed by, this is kind of my dumping of my feelings about the world onto my fabric as like a form of, no, I don't agree with that. I didn't say it, so I don't know why I need to disagree. I was going to say as a form of therapy and processing, but that's actually not true. I actually am not interested in stitching as therapy. I'm not interested in like stitching to feel good, or like when I'm stressed I stitch and it helps me feel better. If that's how you feel, like power to you, but like I'm popping a gummy. Like I'm popping a gummy and I'm watching a movie. Y'all can stitch. And anyway, so this is maximum motif density. Ultimately, I feel as though the world is just kind of piles of images that have piled up on top of each other, and one of the reasons that things are so incoherent to us is that because they're not coherent, right? It's not that we're like not able to process, or it's not that we're like don't understand. It's that the stuff doesn't connect to each other. It's just kind of a mess, right? But also at the same time, if you like look into the mess for long enough and are able to like process the mess, then it actually does kind of make sense, and you can kind of see the separation between this and that and the other thing. Previously, I had worked on this, which is, oh, I should tell you about what I'm stitching on. This is on Lugana. It's a 32 count Silver Moon by Zweigart. I just stitch everything on plain Zweigart. And previously, I had stitched part of, in my own sort of hopped up DMC conversion, which that's how much of that I got. But I want to do something a little different, because the thing is, like, there are so many motifs that I want to do on this, and so much, yeah, that I was like, oh, I should just do something different. I should just do another pattern. And so I started on a totally different part of the fabric, stitching Laura Vorgenssen 1853 by Jan Hicks Creates. Usually I do my own conversions now, even if they're just in DMC, because I think in the way that like, You know how you can buy jarred pasta sauce? And it's good. But it's actually never going to be as good as pasta sauce that you make. And not because you're like a better cook than the pasta sauce jar, but just because you make the pasta sauce the way you want it to taste, as opposed to the way that the people making the pasta sauce want it to taste. And so it'll always be better. That's how I feel about a color conversion. Is that like the ingredients are going to be mostly the same. But I should choose colors that I like because it's mine. And if the designer likes other colors, they can stitch it themselves. Anyway, all that to say I'm not doing a color conversion on this pattern in particular. And so that's what I started stitching on that house in the middle. And this is where it starts to get loopy on maximum motif density. I mean, it's only going to get crazier from here, so strap in. And so this is how much I've stitched. You can see my hoop mark. And I am stitching this 2/3. And so it just has this like crazy, I don't know, it just looks so different. It's huge. And I'll show you what the fabric looks like because it does look kind of crazy. I actually think it'll be like that. Like I think this will be the top. But maybe this will be the top. I don't know. I guess it doesn't need to have a top. But this is the work I did. And I made good progress on it. I'm really happy with it. It's kind of starting to look wrong, right? And the next time I work on it, I'm gonna stitch parts of a different pattern and then just fill in, yeah, where what goes where. So far I've only been stitching out with cotton with 2 threads. So this is 2/3, this is 2/2. I will be doing some with silk, probably 1/1. I will probably be doing some 1/2, maybe with silk, maybe with a silk cotton kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe just with cotton. And then I'll also probably be doing a section that's over 4. I need to buy the right needles for this, but I bought this. Oh, I guess I could separate this. I'm also trying to have like a variety of materials because I think the mess makes it make sense. And so I bought this hemp cord at Artisan Craftsman, which is a Artisan Craftsman's an art and craft store in Squirrel Hill, which is also in Pittsburgh. Guys, I live in Pittsburgh. I'm talking about places in Pittsburgh. And I bought this and I don't quite know what I'll do with it. I am going to experiment stitching with this because I think that it is really, I think there's something kind of fun about this, you know, maybe even beautiful silks, really delicate, fine work, and then just like slap some hemp over it. But in the meantime, what I've been working on is Laura Vorgenssen. And she looks like that. And then the fabric looks like that. And that is what I was working on towards the beginning of a couple weeks ago. Then you guys see this in every Flosstube. I worked on, it's called Everflowering Garden. It's by Owl Forest Embroidery. I am making some alterations to it. I made some changes to the pattern. so that it will be a sampler, which is in honor of my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, which is in a few years. It's absolutely fucking gigantic, and I have made pretty good progress on it. I lied to you, I'm sorry, in my last video, where I said that I would have the top section finished before I put it away, and I didn't want to do that. After I got a lot of stitching done on it, and I just kind of hit a wall. And the problem with this is I can't hit a wall because it does have like a timeline. Oh, what is that? Did I bite that? It does have like a kind of a clear timeline about what I hit a wall. And the problem with this is like you can't really hit a wall because like there is like I want to have it done by their 50th wedding anniversary. And so I just put it away because I could feel myself getting mad about it. And I'm just gonna let this section sit. So I lied to you and I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And this is how it looks. I'm stitching this on 46 count as well. 1/2 with a DMC conversion. I have been doing the DMCs that they called for, although I did make this dark green a little bit darker to give it, I don't know, I wanted it to have like a really kind of clear border. And this is what it looks like. And so I had said in my last Flosstube that this whole top section would be done and I would finish it before I put it away, which obviously is not true because I did not finish the flowers over here. But it is looking really good. I feel good about the progress. And so it was like, okay, if you push through, you're going to hate it. And then you're not going to work on it for 6 months and then you're going to be fucked. And so I did it. And that is Everflowering Garden. This is another one that is just so like, it's very sweet. Oh, I will say, I like the colors, but I do feel like there's something missing. And I don't quite know what, and I guess you'll see. And so I have actually decided to introduce another color. And then I'll just kind of, and I also think I need to be less tied to the pattern. Which is something I say about this every time I pull it out. And yeah, this is kind of me doing it. But I think it just needs like a little bit more like yellow warmth. It's very pink. It's very pink and purple. And I like pink and purple. I'm not like a pink hater. But I think to me there is something color-wise that's missing a little bit from this. And so I've decided to also introduce this yellow color. And stitch on that. I will be doing, there's a board, I'll like circle it or something. There's like a floral border further down. That's where I'm going to work on next. And I think I'm going to do the flowers in this yellow color. So that is my progress on Everflowering Garden. Now that I don't know, I'm kind of flying through this Flosstube. I mean, I guess I have to go to Easter dinner. There's a ham in the oven and I have to drive 40 minutes. And it just looks so good. I need water. The final piece I have to show you is another one I think I've shown in every Flosstube. So that's fun. This is Franzi 1870 by Reflets Soie. I am stitching this we'll get into it. 2/2 with the DMC conversion that they provide. It's called for with silk. And every time I work on this, I am trying to stitch 2 motifs, like session, before I put it away. But I also just decided that like didn't work for the blocks down at the bottom. And so my new thing is I need to stitch either 2 motifs or a block. On the chart, they call for the whole thing, I think. I don't know. I don't speak French, so this is like a Google Translate photo, whatever. I don't understand how it works. And so I'm pretty sure that on the chart, I mean, I barely follow charts anyway, but I'm pretty sure on the chart that it says that you should be stitching it like 1/1 with silks, which makes sense. I want it to be huge because I think that it is just such a crazy pattern. And so kind of maximalist and like what I'm looking for and blah, 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 that I wanted it really big and I wanted it really bold. And so I'm stitching it 2/2 on 32 count. So it's huge. But then the part down below, they call for you doing 2/2 on like whatever count they're stitching it on. And because I was already doing 2/2, but it needs to be even bigger, I stitched this square part 4/4. So it is 4 cotton threads over 4 wefts. And it looks amazing. And so this is how that looks. It just looks so good. It just looks so weird and it looks so good and I don't know. It was kind of fun. I'm kind of enjoying these like huge stitches. Like the 2/3 on the 32 count, now 4/4 on a 32 count. Like it's big. And it doesn't look bad. I think I was worried it would look bad because it's like so puffy. But let me give you a close up. Don't talk about my back stitching. I missed 2 of them. You can talk about it. I don't care. But it's just coming together so well. And I mean, I barely started it. But it just looks so good. It just looks so good. Like, ugh. It just looks so good. And yeah, that's Franzi. This, I think, is my like year. I wouldn't say I have like a focus piece or anything like that, but I would say there are pieces that for me like symbolized my year in stitching and like my taste for the year. And I think that Franzi is definitely something that like I will think about 2025 and think like this is sort of an encapsulation of the way my brain is working. What was last year's? Maybe The Beast. Yeah, I think last year it was The Beast by Long Dog Sampler, which I'm still working on, but this to me is like, yeah, this is what I'm doing this year. This is, if you catch me out and about and I look a little confused, I'm actually just thinking about this. So that is, yeah, Franzi 1870. And you can see from how little I've actually done. But it just looks so good. And I'm just so happy with it. And I will continue working on it all the time. Okay, I don't have much to say about like thinking. I also, it's finals week next week. And I'm in school. And I have just been on my like school grind set. I think I'm gonna have a 4.0 this semester, which is exciting. Which I guess a thing to note is that like the school I go to is not known for kind of crazy grade inflation, which like definitely some schools, like it's pretty regular to get a 4.0. And I guess some majors, like I think if I was a business major and I wasn't getting a 4.0, I would be a lot more angry than what I am doing. And Yeah, so I haven't, the thinking I've been doing has not been, I've been doing like low thought stitching. But I do want to crowdsource some information for you from the people watching. If you've made it this far and you have any potential information for me, I'm going to crowdsource it from you. I am making these pillows, right? I talked about it for way too long. Out of my animal crackers, and I do not like polyfill. I don't like the way it feels. I don't, yeah, I don't like polyfill. And I'm looking for something with a little bit more heft. And I do think that I'm gonna stuff it with walnut shells. But I don't know where you buy them, or I don't know if there's like a brand people like, or I don't want ones with lavender. So that's like also, I like don't want a scent. But I do just want something like kind of cute. I don't know. I'm talking about walnut shells that are, I don't care. It doesn't matter if it's cute. Basically, I'm looking for somewhere that's going to have walnut shells that are appropriate for stitching. Maybe not super fine. Because I do like maybe a more like beanbag kind of texture versus like a really, yeah. And not Amazon. So do not be, I mean, you can tell me Amazon, but I'm not buying it from Amazon. Yeah, and so if you guys have recommendations for where I can get crushed walnut shells that would be good for stuffing my pillows, please let me know in the comments. That would be incredibly helpful. There was a second thing I wanted to know. Oh, also, I wouldn't say I'm sick of not having a stitching community, because I definitely do have a stitching community. But I am feeling kind of, it would be nice to stitch with someone in person. And I live in Pittsburgh, so if you guys know of any stitching groups that meet in Pittsburgh, preferably on a Sunday. Oh, I'm on my phone and my computer. I know there's one like north of the city that's like maybe with the Embroiderers Guild. That might be right for me. I don't know what time they stitch. I am kind of, I don't know. And I know there's like a needlepoint club, but yeah. Okay, so there's like, I know there's one like north of the city that meets at one of the libraries. I would really prefer, like I have a car and it's fine, but I would really prefer somewhere more in the city than that. I find that people who live not in the city, particularly here in Pittsburgh, here's the thing. So Pittsburgh's very affordable. I mean, very affordable. No city's very affordable, but Pittsburgh, for the size of its city, is actually a pretty affordable city. And because of that, that means that unlike, say, New York, where to live in Manhattan, you need more than just to want to live in Manhattan. You also need like a certain amount of financial stability, right? In Pittsburgh, you don't have to have a lot of money and you can kind of live anywhere, and there will be apartments or homes for you that you can afford to live in and that would be right for you. And so that means that I have found here, maybe more so than anywhere else, the kinds of people who choose not to live in the city are people who are trying to avoid interacting with people who live in the city. And I think it's different like once you get out like the whole way to where my parents live, where it's like an hour outside the city and like they live on a farm. But I think if you're living like, sorry, I work in Wexford and I just like hate the people in Wexford. But I think like if you live in Wexford, or you live in like, what is it, like Hampton, or if you live in like, yeah, basically what I'm saying is like, I find there to be a closedness to people here who choose not to live in the city. And because the way that I think about my stitching is maybe like potentially more radical. No, it's not. The way I think about my stitching is lame as fuck. I just think that like because of my life and because of my lifestyle, I would prefer to be stitching with people who I don't have to like. I also think like I'm kind of sick of people being people's like gay gateway, which I think is the thing that happens to me at my job. I think it's the thing that happens to me in different situations. But like, I am kind of tired of being someone's like introduction to gay people. And like introduction to, and I think that that's like I have concerns that that is what would happen if I was going somewhere like maybe 30 minutes north of the city. Basically, I just want to stitch with people who are like me. I want to stitch with, I don't know. I don't want to have to, I want to be able to talk about my life, and I want to be able to talk about myself, and I don't want to have to do a lot of explaining about it, because it's like a hobby and it's like for my personal enjoyment, right? It's not for like educational purposes or whatever. And I think that the needlepoint corner, the needlepoint group or whatever here, that's like new, and essentially the girl who runs it was like immediately making a bunch of money off of it, and like selling classes and selling, and it was like, okay, this is just like an extension of your brand and much less like a community building kind of thing, and I would prefer something with a little bit more community building. Basically what I'm saying is I want to stitch with gay people, and if anybody here in Pittsburgh knows any gay people who are in like a stitching group or anything like that, please let me know. That's it. I want to stitch with the goths. I want to stitch with the dolls, and I want to stitch with the gays. And so like, where are my nerds at? You know? Anyway, those are my crowdsourcing gay stitching group, potentially in Pittsburgh. Or I guess I could do a Zoom group too. Where do you get your walnut shells? Okay. Thank you for watching. Stay safe out there, everybody. And happy Easter. Alleluia, alleluia, he is risen. Okay, bye.